Good evening and welcome to the South County Fire Board of Commissioners Special Board Meeting for January 13, 2026. I'll go ahead and call us to order. Ask everybody to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And as we start the meeting, we have Commissioner Wittes on Zoom, and I'm not sure about Commissioner Chan. Ms. Blankenship haven't heard. Okay, we'll see. All right, that is item 2. So item 3, approval of the agenda. You have the draft agenda in front of you, and Chief, I don't believe it's special meeting, so there can't be anything else for the agenda. Sorry. You have the draft agenda in front of you. I'll move that we no, it's been elevated to a special meeting. I will move the adoption of the special meeting agenda as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Say it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? If not, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. That takes us to the consent agenda, which includes the payroll summary and authorization for December 2025. I will move the authorization of the payroll summary and authorization for 2025. Is there a second? Second by, it's been seconded. It's been moved and seconded to approve the payroll summary and authorization. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? If not, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. That takes us to the item number 5, which is public comment. We'll start first in the room with public comment. And is there any requests? And then we'll go to our Zoom platform. Starting first in the room, is there any request for public comment here in the room? Here in the hearing room, any requests for public comment? Not seeing any requests for public comment in the room. Let me ask Ms. Blankenship on our Zoom platform. Ms. Blankenship, is there any requests for public comment?
There is not.
Very good. Thank you. I'll come back to the room one last time. Any requests for public comment here in the room? Not seeing any requests for public comment in the room. Thank you. We will move forward in the agenda then to item number 6, which is the fire chief's report. Good evening, Chief Eastman.
I don't have much of a report tonight. I think in the context of the rest of the meeting, you'll hear year in review for 2025, and I'll keep my comments to the agenda items if that's okay with the board.
That sounds good. All right, that moves us forward then in the agenda to item number 7, which is the union report. And let's see, we have Connor Holton with us tonight. Good evening.
Good evening, commissioners, staff, and guests. I've got nothing to report from 1828 tonight. Looking forward to the commissioner's decision on the CBA that was recently ratified. So thank you all. Have a good night.
That'll be later in the meeting. Thank you. Okay. All right, that moves us forward then in the agenda to item number 8, which is unfinished business. And we're going to start with 8A, which is the WHA insurance presentation and renewal for 2026. This is for discussion.
Just a quick, as Winslow gets set up, and I'm happy to say that Jeff and Winslow from WHA are here. You got a presentation from them. And my short-term memory is not as good as it used to be, but earlier this year, and they've been doing their due diligence, and not without some of challenges that go along with having, VFIS being purchased by another insurer and some of those other things, and a new broker. They've been working diligently on our behalf. Things actually go way slower. And there's some challenges, and Winslow will go over that with you tonight. I just want to thank them for being here. I think having WHA work with us and partner with us moving forward is good for the RFA, and I think it takes us well into the future. And I won't be here to watch it, but my gut tells me they will exceed our expectations and be good partners for the long term. So with that, I'll turn it over to Winslow and have him give you a brief. And remember, the intention is to have our renewals for action next week. And so he's going to give you an overview of what's going on. I know we don't have the renewal paperwork in front of you. Part of that's a challenge that he'll talk about, but they'll be here for next Tuesday for the board to consider and take action on. So with that, I'll turn it over to WHA and Winslow and Jeff.
Chief, thank you. Chair, board, leadership team that's here, staff and guests. I want to thank you guys. I know Chris is not here. He's on vacation. I hear in Hawaii, but I do want to give him a huge shout out. If he could be a quarterback in the next life, he would be a great quarterback because he is a logistical mastermind. We had a lot of underwriting questions and challenges throughout the re-underwriting process of VFIS and some of the other ancillary policy carriers. And Chris was Johnny on the spot with all the answers that we needed. And if he did not have the answer, he was able to put me in touch with your staff and team that had the answers during that process. Usually just an underwriter question that came out of left field, which was every other day, it seemed, for the last 60 days. And I also want to give a shout out to James Curtis. I believe he's a DC. He knows your guys' operations, your guys' assets, fleet, equipment, like the back of his hand. He has amazing records, and his records are actually what made my job a lot easier, as challenging as it was with the broker transition. So with that said, just so you guys are apprised of how things are looking, the packet you guys have here that was not submitted in your initial packet, if you guys turn to page 1, page 2 and 3. So what you see there is the primary package in terms of what is renewing on February 1st. You guys have your primary policy with VFIS Gladfelters. That is your property and casualty policy. Very robust package that covers most of your operational exposures and insurance needs. You guys also have some ancillary policies, which are listed on page 3. That includes 2 layers of excess liability, both for $5 million, stacking on top of each other above the primary. You guys have an earthquake excess policy that is also renewing, and then that is coupled on top of your limits inside your VFIS package. You guys also have a general liability that is actually not renewing until later this year, but we're still watching that and transitioning that document or that policy with us as we speak. You have your accident and sickness policy, which is renewing also through Gladfelters. And then you guys have a group life, which is on a 3-year term. That is not coming up, but we're still going to transition that, and it's being transitioned. And then you guys have 3 marine policies, 1 primary standalone for your guys' I think, Marine 16, and Marine excess on top of that for extra limits. And then you guys have a pollution cert or policy renewing. And then the one that we are quoting right now is a cyber policy that couples with your VFIS package policy. There's pros and cons to keeping both. We're going to evaluate that together, and that will be in my renewal report for next week. But we are still going to get that quote just out of some of the desires of the commissioner and the leadership, the commissioners and the leadership. We unfortunately do not have your guys' quotes ready as of today. The broker transition has been quite lengthy. VFIS, although we started the RFP process last summer, we were awarded by you guys as a district, as the recipients or receivers of that award. And we started the broker transition in late summer. VFIS, due to new protocols passed down by their new parent company, AIG, would not allow us to get into the account and do our due diligence until 60 days before renewal, which was, you guys can tell, was the beginning of December. That's when a lot of my communications with Chris kicked off, and we've been working ever since tirelessly to get this pushed through. Keep in mind, a lot of this auto renews. We just have to make sure that information's up to date and that the premiums are being rated for the any changes in exposure. I do have assurances from the underwriter, which is one of their lead underwriters at VFIS, as of this morning with a long communication with her in prep for this meeting, that early indication is that rates are going to come in relatively flat overall. Some of the line items will change, and we might see just a little bit of an increase, anywhere between really 0 to 5 or 0 to 10%, but I'm going to say 5 to 10 to be safe. and that is around auto liability. I think right now the district's loss ratio is around 116%. So it's going to be a big driver for that auto insurance line item. And keep in mind, you guys are not alone with auto exposures and claims costs. We are seeing it nationwide, regardless of what kind of entity you are. I don't care if you're private, nonprofit, public. Anyone that's behind a wheel right now is driving up a lot of the loss ratios we've seen in auto. And we're seeing every industry type, every carrier increase rates across the board. Even us as an insurance brokerage have seen rate increases. And we may have hit it one or two deers by accident. So I apologize, joke. But with that said, that will be one of the major increases we see. And then the other one we'll see is management liability, and that just ties into some of the claims we've had over the last 5 years. Something we're going to keep an eye on, and that will be part of our. These two items will actually be part of our heavy risk management strategy is moving into a renewal. I also want you guys to be mindful of the fact that VFIS and AIG are not honoring us as the broker until officially February 1st. That is a unique change that we have not seen. Most carriers do not do that. They like to honor the agent of record changes that you guys submit, and we submit on your behalf immediately. They are a little behind the curve on industry best practices when we see that in regards to that, but they are going to honor that on February 1st. And that's sort of been some of the timing hiccups that we have faced over the last 60 days. We are expecting all the quotes, though, to come in by the next board meeting. I don't know if they will be ready for your packet on Friday, but I will have a far more robust hand prop for next Tuesday's meeting. That one you see there is more of a skeleton format. We give a lot more context to what we're seeing on the rates, what we're seeing on the policy renewals, changes, anything to be mindful of as commissioners and the leadership. With your guys' insurance exposures and those changes that ensue out of that. We put a lot of context behind all those, but we make sure it's concise. So you guys get what you need in the way you need it to make decisions for your guys' meeting. So let's see if there's anything I missed. Before I continue, do you guys have any questions?
Questions from the board members? Commissioner Lawrence.
Yeah, just a general question about the insurance, because you mentioned the cost going up. Just, do you have any insight on what's driving that besides just general inflation? Is it some other kind of deep reason?
So regarding your guys', so keep in mind, you pay for.
Not just us, in general.
Oh, in
overall,
general,
yeah,
excuse me.
Overall, yeah.
I would definitely say the inflationary costs of auto claims. I don't know if that's like repairs, the man hour or the person hours that are going into repairs have gone up. Frequency and the severity of claims have gone up. Lawsuits are really crazy right now, especially in the third party realm. So we're just seeing very broad, and it seems to be, this is just my soft professional opinion. It seems like people have forgotten how to drive after COVID. And we've just seen a significant uptick in frequency over the last several years. So,
Right.
But on the commercial side, public entities, especially in the state of Washington, they just have a lot higher exposure with third-party liability than other states. So,
Yeah, thank you.
Commissioner Fernhoff.
Thank you for the presentation. I have a question, and then you may not have the statistic, and I appreciate it if you don't, but I would also appreciate if we can get a follow-up to this. There's been a trend in the fire service to replace DoD standard ultra bright yellow and green red stripes with a more subdued black and red stripes on fire apparatus and ambulances. I would be very curious to know two things. One, this trend seems to be an option that is provided by the manufacturer. Is there an increase in statistical information for rear end accidents on apparatus that have the new subdued markings? And is there an issue if one of our apparatus is involved in some sort of rear end accident where we may have or may not have, I'm not really clear on this, but have waived the manufacturer's suggested markings for the new markings? And will you cover that incident as a result of that drifting from the standard?
So the coverage is not an issue. And what is the issue is the safety of our fire.
Could you come close to the mic,
Oh,
please?
yes.
The the issue of coverage is not, that is not an issue. There will be coverage. The, what is a concern is the safety of our firefighters. So there is some trending. There's not good data currently. There was some data done by a doctor out of Syracuse a number of years ago about base colors. This doctor argued that yellow was better than red. He had some statistics to that. What we do know for sure is that the reflective tape that's picked up at night is critical, a volume of that. And also what we do know is that blue lights pierce better at night than red or white. Positioning is obviously a big deal. How we protect our firefighters with the position of our rigs at a fire scene or at an auto accident. I'm not a fan of some of the trending. I like bright, reflective rigs. They stand out. I know we're being recorded, but some civilian drivers are just crazy. The volume of vehicles out on the road is significant and only growing. If I had a concern right now for my firefighter safety, it would be driving. So if we look at deaths in the fire service, cancer's number 1, suicide's number 2, heart's number 3, driving is number 4. We lose 18 to 25 drivers a year across the country. Many of those are volunteers, and most of those are in tender rollovers. So I don't know how well that addressed your issue, but the coverage is not the issue. Safety would be primary.
Thank you for that explanation. I argue that if the trend for black and red is so important to have this tactical look, then road vests, which are bright in color with markings, if they were changed to that, I think we would have an increase in fatalities or injury as a result of that. It's a trend that's fairly disturbing. And I just, since we have you here and we're talking about coverage and liability, I wanted to make sure that we put that somehow into the conversation.
It is. We're seeing a lot of black and red across the country. I think it started in Chicago. I think you'll see more of it. It stands out. I'm not as concerned about the paint color as I am about the amount of reflective tape, the quality of the tape.
Thank you, sir.
You betcha. Did that address, I see colors on your shirt. You're involved with the fire department someplace?
Yeah, I'm just one of the commissioners here.
All right, well,
And a former first responder and a former member of this department as well. So,
glad to see you wearing colors.
So, thank you.
Safety of firefighters is number 1.
And Commissioner Furnoff, if I could just
Go ahead.
share, if I could.
Yes.
So I want to touch on something that Jeff touched on, the blue lights. The RCWs in Washington State changed and they allow a single blue light while the fire apparatus is stopped on the rear of the vehicle. I looked into the human factor psychology, and Jeff is correct. You can see them better. It is not a natural color in nature. I could go through a whole bunch of reasons why, but I've instructed DC Curtis to add that to our fleet as we move forward because it will improve rear safety for firefighters.
I appreciate that, sir. And really, this isn't a conversation about are we covered in case of an accident. I'm trying to prevent injury to our workers. And to me, the trend that has happened over the years, and I started, in the fire service in the early 80s, is that we wore, at least in Southern California, I wore turnout coats that made me look like a human road cone. I was in yellow from head to toe, including my helmet, reflective stripes everywhere. And now what we've trended towards is black helmets, black turnouts. And at least in my opinion, we've minimized some of the striping on there where I would double or triple it just because of the absence of color. To ensure that our folks are safe and not going with the trend, that's my comment and that's my argument.
Can I ask where you started in California?
Southern California, yeah, I went through the Glendale Fire Academy and lived in Arcadia.
So you knew Ronnie Coleman pretty well.
I know that name, yeah, absolutely.
To your question, though, we will find that statistic. It may not be next week, but I'm sure there's some manufacturing, looking into that we can do. So
I think specifically, I'd like to know if manufacturers have a department sign a waiver, basically saying, hey, here's the standard 1901 from the NFPA, which has been migrated in 1900, which is now buried in a subsection, which is not as prominent as it used to be. So understanding where we stand as an organization, how we're protecting our people, and most assuredly, if we're involved in an incident, is that something that can be then brought back and said, if your rig was properly striped, this would never have happened kind of argument?
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other?
Other
oh, sorry.
questions? Mr. Cervantes, I did have a question for you from your materials.
Yes.
And that is, I see on what's listed as page 3 at the bottom of the page regarding excess liability, 5 million apiece, and the, possible quotes pending. But what I didn't see was on page 2 for the primary insurance, what the like umbrella coverage was for that. I see the pending potential amounts, but my vague recollection from the past is that it's been 11 million in the past. And I was wondering what you were anticipating for this time.
So are you referring to your primary package on page 2? Excess liability would be the last line item before the total estimated annual premium line?
Yes, but what I'm trying to get at is, I see what the excess liability, those two $5 million layers on page 3, but our primary one in the past has been 11 million. And then we've stacked the 2 5s for a total of 21. But I don't see, is it 11? Is it 10? Is it 9? Is it something else? So that's why I'm wondering, what is it going to be on the primary side of that?
I believe your underlying is. Forgive me while I just double check.
Oh, sure.
Paul Winslow is looking for that number in the policy.
So you guys have a $10 million occurrence and a $20 million aggregate. Those are your limits on your, I wanted to double check because when you said 11 and 10, did not quite sound right. But yeah, you guys have a $10 million per occurrence and a $20 million aggregate.
And is what you're seeking quotes for the same thing for the 10 million?
Yes, for those 2 standalone 5s, which again stack one after another on top of your 20
20 occurrence,
20 current, or
10 per occurrence, 20 for
Yeah.
aggregate.
excuse me, yes.
And then, so then are there the 2 5 million from page 3 on top of that, or that's included within the 20 million?
No, that's on top of that.
So 30
So-
million total?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So per occurrence, it
Yes.
would be 10 under, 5 and 5, and they coordinate, so
So-
they're stacked
Total of 20
for a total of 20.
per occurrence.
The aggregate would be 20 plus the 10.
Okay. And is that, Keith, is that less than last year? 'Cause that's,
I
for some
think-
reason, I've got 11 million. in my
Yeah,
mind,
and
But I may be,
but I
remembering
think
a more distant
I think
past.
that 10 and 20 is correct.
Yeah, okay.
If I recall right, that's where we were, and so what they're talking about with our liability and the excess liability is the same as we had last year.
Okay, okay. So then what I like to ask about, particularly those, the 20 million, sorry, the 10 plus the 2 5s for primary occurrence, is that enough? So we've had either 20 or 21 million for a number of years. We, for some of the potential worst case scenarios, we run into a school bus of children or maybe a school bus of young doctors or something. And, it's a huge, going to be a huge payout. And is that enough? Because as the years go by, inflation's only going up, and yet we're still around $20 million of coverage. I want to say we've been at 20 million since before coronavirus, so at least 6 years. 6 years later, is 20 million enough, or do we really need to be at 25 or 26 or 30? And so That I don't know, that I'm hoping that you can help us answer is, do we actually need more than that? I mean, more than what we're talking about getting.
Yeah, that's a great question, Chair. So that will come, I would say some of that's going to come with time when I learn your guys' risk aversion and risk controls and the district and what they're doing on their end in best practice protocols and procedures to mitigate or, eliminate certain risks from happening. Now, we live in a universe ran by chaos theory. Things will happen, right? And we have to prepare for that. But really understanding what your guys' risk tolerance is and how you guys want to financially risk transfer this into a policy and at what limits will come with time in my assessment. I will tell you, in reference to, again, the hundreds of districts we work with and hundreds of fire districts we work with, you guys do have the highest limit we have ever seen with excess liability. And we're speaking in terms of even some districts that are larger than you guys in terms of operational exposures, personnel, coverage territory, emergency call runs, and their various breakouts. So I just want to put that in perspective as well when you have this conversation. And now again, Washington is a unique state, especially with how the court systems are here. So, and the lack of tort claim or tort limits for public entities, it can become very concerning. How many dollars will a lawyer put or an attorney put on a suit? So again, things we have to consider, things we have to think about. I will say though, I think with how the times are, these are very, very, very good limits, very high. And how we evaluate that and if we need more, I would love to continue those conversations with you guys. But just in perspective, you guys do have quite a bit of coverage on top of your underlining and primary policy. But if you guys want to continue these conversations, I would just want to have questions that benefit you, right? From a financial standpoint, from a best practice standpoint, how much do we trust the operational integrity and the due diligence and the processes that the district has to prevent certain things from happening? Are we evaluating those appropriately? Are we looking at possible gaps in that? But there's a lot of questions and evaluations I want to do before we continue that conversation on more limits. And if Jeff has any thoughts.
I do. So what Winslow alluded to was risk appetite versus risk tolerance, and there's a significant difference. And where your policies and practices come into play, auto liability is our biggest exposure, without question. Medical malpractice would be probably number two. Not to mention, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention it, the employee practices. So we have some exposures. The policies and procedures you have in place have a big impact on that. How we take an intersection. If we're, and I don't want to get too deep in the woods, but you'll appreciate this. We travel in a pack. So we're toned out. Our first engine company takes an intersection, 4 lanes both ways, and they take it as slow speed. They slow, they hold all the traffic. Traffic doesn't realize we've got another engine company or a staff rig coming behind it 9, 10, 15 seconds. That rig has a tendency in some districts to take it at full speed rather than slow down. So I can tell you that our liability increases every mile an hour over a safe speed at that intersection. So those practices have a huge impact. With that said, if you're tracking lawsuits in this state, they are climbing exponentially. The awards, we had an issue, I think 2 years ago, where an engine company was merging on a freeway and hit a limo that was full of youth that were partying. And those claim dollars got fairly significant, under your limit, but fairly significant. We had a death with an engine company and a motorcycle out in the Kitsap area several years ago, and that was well into the 5-figure range. So we're doing analytics for this region, for you, for the region, and for the rest of the state. Lawsuits in eastern Washington, much smaller. Lawsuits in this area are much higher. So there may be a reason to increase it. We'll have some analytics for you that address both tolerance and appetite.
I guess my interest, and maybe I'm more more willing to spend for insurance. I like to be insured. Maybe that's just my personal perspective, but what I see at the margin here is that the most expensive policy here, looking at and maybe I'm looking at the wrong place, but on the excess liability, the first layer, I'm getting 5 million of coverage for essentially $100,000. That's 2% of the cost of that $5 million is $100,000. Well, can I keep doing that for another 5 million? In other words, can I spend another 100,000 and get another 5 million?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
another 100,000 and get another 5 million?
It's actually
'Cause-
reduced. So as the
But-
as the limit goes up, the price does drop down.
You'll see that on layer 2 being about 40% less.
Okay, because I like the idea of reviewing everything we do and talking about how we are, working on best practices, and that's all great, but accidents happen.
They do.
And you can have the best plans and the best laid plans in all the world, and you're still going to have accidents. And you may be at fault if we're talking in the auto realm. And your best practice is going to save you from having to pay out on a lawsuit. And as time goes by, I'm just wondering whether 20 million is enough. When I had 20 million 6 years ago, maybe I need 25 million or 30 million. And if it's, I don't want to say only, but if the cost is 100,000 per 5 million, I'm more inclined to have more and be protected because we have been this, in various contexts, we are the recipient of lawsuits.
Yes.
We are the defendant in lawsuits, and we have experienced there are payouts, and there's in many ways there's nothing we can do about it.
Yep.
For a variety of reasons. And so, but one thing we can do is protect ourselves with insurance, and that's where I'm wondering about what's that old saying, penny wise, pound foolish, or something like that. Are we a little bit better off to spend some more on the front end to protect ourselves when the value of our agency is over $100 million annually? And I don't know how many miles we drive, but we drive thousands,
Yep.
a million
Yes.
miles. I don't know. We're driving right now. I mean, we're driving all the time. And so we're at risk all the time, but we have professional drivers. People don't realize these are professional drivers, but even professional drivers get in
They do.
accidents. And so
do.
I'm just thinking about that cost benefit. I do like to have insurance. So
Well-
and what I'm looking for out of you is options. What are the options here? Because the board may go, 20 million is fine, but it'd be nice to know what our options are.
So working with staff, we had planned a midterm risk review update, and I'll move that up. There is a program called the PEEP program. It's designed for public entities that has high excess limits. And we've been into that, looking at that, analyzing whether that would be a good fit or not, or a good option for you. But we'll move those dates up so that you have more data sooner than later. I think you're wise to look at the limit. I think it is in this area, in the Seattle area, the awards we see are significant, and I think we want to stay in front of that power curve. I would also state that everything we've seen in the policies and procedures, you've approached risk from a very conservative, defendable posture, which is good.
One of the, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead,
So
Chief.
one of the things when we were having the conversation about the extra excess liability policies is we were only able to get what we got.
Yeah.
There wasn't more to go get. One of the challenges is when we had this conversation, I think we started 2 or 3 years ago, and added the excess to the excess, right? We couldn't get more.
Yeah.
We were at the limit, right? And so there was a desire to maybe get more at the time we had that conversation, and the folks that were sitting where you were like, we can't get you more. I mean, this is all we can get. So there's another reality that we live with, that we may want to insure liability, but we're not in a place to have anybody give us that liability other than what we have. And so I remember that from the last
Yes.
conversation, is we were saying, what if we wanted to double our liability? And the question was, you can't, because we can't get a policy.
Yeah.
Right. And so there's a balance between that too, is if you're not able to get it, right, well, but then the conversation becomes something different from a staff's perspective. Commissioner Kenny, is then what do we do organizationally, right? We then need to think about the rest of the story that then has different impacts from staff and the CFO and other conversations, not to say self-insured, but you still need to protect yourself at some level. So just to let you guys know, we talked about more than and couldn't get it either. And so that was one of the other challenges we faced. I want to say 3 years ago when we started the conversation was we couldn't even get more than what we got. And we were lucky to get the second excess policy.
Commissioner Fernhoff.
You were speaking, using the example of engines approaching an intersection, traveling in packs, and some of the tactics used in that. Sadly, I've witnessed with our department, neighboring departments, other departments, what we used to call the silent code. And in my particular case, I was almost witness to a $2 million brand new ladder truck get T-boned because of the lack of use of a siren. It was a car that could not see this vehicle. They were coming out through 4 lanes of traffic and trying to inch out. And had that ended badly, from a statistical point of view, from your insurance claim point of view, I'm assuming that one of the very first questions a lawyer is going to ask is your lights and siren on? Where do statistics stand in this new, again, it's a trend where we're rolling apparatus, and this is in the middle of the day. This is not at night to wake people up or anything like that. This is practically high noon. With the lack or the reluctancy to use a siren when rolling with the fire apparatus or medical vehicle.
So we have to remember that lights and sirens allow us to ask to take an intersection. They allow us to ask to have the right of way. That's an important piece that we need to be aware of. Obviously, lights and sirens in combination are our best defense, having both work. There are some areas around hospitals that try to restrict that. There's some other areas that might. I don't know the protocols here with lights and sirens. I think it is a good practice to use both, especially if we are asking to take right away at intersections and in traffic.
You trust me when I say this was on Highway 99 surrounded by car dealerships, so nobody was and there was no quiet zone. There was no restricted area or best practice to use to in this particular case. But I think the lesson, at least for me, was we rely on size, we rely on our lights, we rely on a great many things, and we don't take into account the missing factor, which is the person who, sadly these days, could be windows rolled up, air conditioning going, tunes going, on the phone, putting on makeup, all at the same time. That extra little bit needs to be incorporated. I know that from my experience when I worked in EMS in Los Angeles, if I were called on the stand and I said, "Yeah, I just have my light bar on and no siren," we would have been taken to town right there and then. I mean, it's a slam dunk. So I'm just curious from your perspective, how many of these cases come before you? Do we have statistics on silent running and resulting in an accident? I would add that to the list.
We'll drill down and see what NFPA has. We'll also check with any statistics that might be out of brokerage and Florida with counsel and compensation. We'll see. We'll drill down a couple of 3 places and ask if there are specific statistics. U.S. Fire Administration, I don't know of any with lights and no sirens. There are some statistics with speed. And my biggest argument is we don't do anyone any good going too fast and not getting to the scene. We need to get to the scene safely.
I will say in defense of the driver operator, once that vehicle became apparent to them, all hell broke loose as far as the grinder and the air horn and everything else. But it was just literally, if it had been moments more, we would not have had that conversation. We would have had a $2 million ladder truck out of service and probably a pending lawsuit based on I didn't hear you.
Yeah.
And there would have been enough supporting evidence to say that that was inappropriate for that traffic condition.
Commissioner Lawrence.
My first question is for the staff. Do we have, I'm sure we have cameras on the vehicles, but how many? All sides and in the rear?
We do not have cameras on our rigs.
What? Really? There must be a reason why we don't.
Isn't it part of our union contract?
I think there's implications with labor. As a result to that, and other than that, I'm not sure where those conversations have gone. I've not had those since I've been the chief about putting cameras in the rigs. I know there's agencies that do. I don't know of many in the state of Washington that actually have cameras, Commissioner Lawrence, like you're talking about in their rigs.
Okay.
I don't think it's as prevalent in the state of Washington as maybe it is in other places.
Okay, and then my follow-up for our insurance friends. That solves a lot of he said, she said, traffic accidents, doesn't it? So wouldn't that help us in case of an accident that we had a recording of it?
Absolutely. With the limited trend that we're seeing in cameras right now are going into staff rigs, get more mileage, smaller rigs. We're seeing that more common than in engine companies, in tenders, in rescue rigs. We haven't seen those yet there.
Mhm.
We do see it in police side. Almost all police cars now have.
Because those crazy drivers you're talking about, they tend to lie too when they get in an
There
accident.
is sometimes a truth issue. Yes. So the camera, I've never seen the camera hurt us. Even when we're at fault, we're never as at fault as the plaintiff's attorney makes it sound.
Okay, very good. Well, I can see I'm going to go on a commissioner campaign here for cameras.
Might be a little bit of, I don't know all the contracts. The first place that you might want to experiment in it would be in some staff rigs. That's a good place to start, I think.
Yeah, the other thing is if you're recording it and how you're recording it, the public record. I mean, there's multiple other aspects to go along with it, Commissioner Lawrence. Not that we can't go down that path, but if we're recording, there's a public records component, and that would have to be explored at the same time. And the reason I bring it up is it sounds pretty simple, but Mike, Commissioner Rowland, I don't know what kind of terabytes and terabytes and terabytes of data you have. If you have 100 rolling vehicles and you're archiving, and I don't know how long you got to keep some of that stuff, even if it's not involved in a wreck. So again, there's other pieces. If organization we want to explore it, it's not just the camera. There's other things that need to be part of that conversation, and research done to continue that conversation.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Yeah, it seems like, yeah, I should know better. No, like, I can't see you guys, so I can't really read the room like I used to be able to. Someone took my seat. I gotta move this screen back here, I think, a bit. So, yeah, everything in my career, everything, it's to the uninformed or ill-informed, everything is a lot simpler until you get in the weeds. The weeds are very complex usually. So I understand. Thank you.
Well done. Yeah, Commissioner Fernhoff.
Now that we sort of laid that out for you as far as cameras are concerned, one, it would be a benefit, obviously, to a driver operator who is doing everything that they're supposed to do. It's a great defense. I get that. That's perfect. From your point of view as an insurer, though, if we presented to you, hey, we just retrofitted our fleet and it cost us, $15,000-$20,000 to put all these cameras up, and we're following the same principles as Amazon because every one of their vans is transmitting the data. It doesn't even go to a recorder, right? It just goes right to the cloud. And we got terabyte farms in Texas that are happy as can be because they're getting all this data and storing it for 5 years or whatever the minimum is. At that point, though, when we present that to you, is that an actual policy reduction? Do we save money because we're now providing a mechanism by which you benefit, we benefit, everybody benefits from the recording of this, or is it kind of?
So there's not a scheduled credit. A lot of things do. A sprinkler has a scheduled credit. There's a
Okay.
reduction. Burglar alarms, those have scheduled credit. However, the point that you made is exactly what Winslow and staff have been doing, is gathering best practices to educate the underwriters with all of the companies, not just VFIS, what we're doing. What we always want to do is build a deep file of the quality things that we're doing, showing that we are risk adverse. Just the conversation tonight about limit says where your frame of mind is, how we take an intersection, how fast we do, the fact that we're concerned about color of rigs, the square inches of reflective tape as prescribed under 1901. All of that helps us argue to get a better rate. And that's partially why your rates are flat this year. You saw some fairly significant increases over the years. And some of that, I believe, was that the underwriter didn't have the data to cover themselves in the file. Your staff did a phenomenal job. Winslow asked 1 million questions to show that to the underwriters. They know that you're doing everything right and that you're risk averse. So is there a specific line credit? There is not. Does it help us with an argument? Always.
Thank you.
Commissioner Rowland.
Are there any specific credits that we could attain that we aren't taking advantage of now when it comes to any of these policies that you would recommend be worth whatever is required to meet the requirements?
So you're getting the credits that you're entitled to today. All of that surfaced in this underwriting segment. What I would suggest long-term, there are short-term things that you can do to, if you will, game with the system, deductibles and whatnot. When we get away from short-term, this is all a long-term game. This is about setting ourselves up to win. We have a little bit of an elevated loss ratio currently in auto. That's a major focus for us. We want to stay very focused on civil rights, employment practices, hiring, firing, promoting, demoting, not just for our employees, but how we interface with civilians. We're seeing civilians bring claims against departments today. So there are some long-term goals to do that will help better position you, but really it's about loss ratio right now and showing that we have all the policies and procedures in place for auto, cyber, and for employment practices. Those are the big three that we're looking at today.
Yeah, the ones that I'm most familiar with would be around the cyber side of things, just given my day job. But I know many of those have differing levels of discounts for X, Y, and Z.
Yes.
I don't know where our current stance is. I know you're out quoting those right now is what I understand, but as we go through that, that can be significant cost implications of either meeting or not meeting specific criteria. So as we get those quoted out, it would be interesting to see where we have opportunities that could help us. Again, it's a cost benefit analysis. We got to figure out if implementing whatever policies are required for the discounts actually save us money or not. But it's more than just the money saved. It's also just best practices that guide those discounts, whether or not they may be worth it for the discount itself, if it pays itself off, versus worth it for the organization is something that we need to take a look at.
And I would go a step beyond that. It's not just the cost of the claim. It's the impact on the entire organization. Morale, the loss of time, loss of use, having a firefighter out with a blown knee. All of that is expensive, not just the insurance cost, but the expense to the organization and to the individual, the family, the firefighter. Did you have more for your presentation?
If I may, commissioners. So in your packet on page 1 is an update just on some like policy changes or terms and conditions changes with VFIS. Again, they got bought out by AIG. I think it was 4 years ago now. They have slowly been realigning all of these companies under the Gladfelter's umbrella with AIG, the parent company. Things have been slow. They've started to ramp up some of that alignment or realignment with these programs with their larger parent company. With that said, they have changed some of the policy language. Again, nothing detrimental or impactful, just kind of tightening up some of the loose language that was written into some of the old program policies. And then the major changes that are just mindful changes is that will impact you are deductible changes, and these are required changes. You guys are already well above these deductible increases. The one that is new this year, which you guys got a letter with from your previous broker, I believe, and from VFIS late last year, is an increase in auto liability to $10,000 deductible. So that is going to be required on the entire fleet and for the district. But that is the most significant change from a cost analysis standpoint that you guys will see into this new policy year. So I believe the previous broker did have a responsibility to communicate that, because technically they are still your broker until the 1st of the next month. I don't know if that was communicated, but I just want to make sure you guys are apprised now. So, and we'll talk through what that looks like from a cost analysis standpoint with historical data with your loss experience. So, what could you look at if things continue on the trend they're at? What kind of out-of-pocket costs are you looking at from a deductible standpoint? So,
Commissioner Rowland.
So I'm kind of trying to understand that real quick. It seems simple, but I want to make sure I understand. So they're changing it so our deductible, which used to be lower, is now required to be at a higher level at $10,000 per incident?
yes,
For all vehicles, or is this for the large rigs?
it's for the whole fleet.
For the whole fleet?
Any accident that incurs a third-party liability.
Okay. Because I know that some of our fleet is older, and there may be a few rigs out there at the, in the pool, or, specific use ones that aren't even worth $10,000. So I don't know what that means for us and what we should do with those, if they should be replaced. It just seems like, at least if these deductibles are higher than the value of the vehicle, then we're not, or is that just deductibles for damages done to other parties?
Correct. Yeah. So that's
Oh,
damage.
okay.
Yeah, that is third
That's what I
party
wanted to
only.
understand.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
So your APD and the combo collision deductibles are already where they're at, and you
Okay.
guys are well above the $1,000 threshold that they're changing up to. It's the auto liability that is a significant change.
Gotcha.
From previous years.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
If I might, I'm going to wrap up with just 3 very quick things, and we've taken a lot of your time, and I appreciate that. Number 1 is your staff, your leadership deserves a great deal of credit. You've seen your rates skyrocket over the last 3 or 4 years. This year is going to be very, very flat, and that's the fact that you're doing everything right. You have the policies in place, and the insurance company now knows that and is recognizing that. That's a huge thing and a great statement about how this organization runs. The second thing that I want to point out is that the trending piece that was asked earlier about where's the industry going, it is being torn apart. I think that most lines are going to flatten out, but if you're looking at FEMA and if you're looking at FEMA claims, you don't get a lot of data for events with FEMA that are under $1 billion, which is sad. But FEMA is telling you that we're hitting between 15 and $20 billion events a year. FEMA is pushing safety. You're going to see that more and more as they go through changes in DC right now. You're going to see them push back to public entities that we have bona fide risk management programs in place. You have some that are good. We're going to enhance some of those. But the industry is going through some significant changes. I believe that we're close to a crest as an industry. Wildfire has been a big issue, but still hurricanes with FEMA are probably the biggest. In this state, in a number of states, litigation can be very high, and we'll give you an update on what that looks like downstream. I want you to know about your options. Currently in this state, different than in California, We have a number of pools. We have 12 very active pools. Of those, 3 work with fire departments. You're aware of that, and we track and work with 2 of those 3. One we would consult you on, and that is the Washington City's pool. We have 3 MGA programs, VFIS, ESIP, and then a thing called Fire Plus. We watch all of those, and at this juncture, VFIS is without question your best direct fire program for your position. The other options are what we call frontline insurers, Travelers, Hartford, big names. They all state, many of them state they have a public entity program, but really when you drill down on it, they don't. They don't understand that our apparatus, a ladder company, may be $2.5 million. It may take 5 years to get it built. They don't understand some of those things. So staying with either the MGAs or the pools make the sense today. That may not downstream, but right now you're in a very good position. You are very well ran. You should be proud of this organization.
Great, thank you. And we're coming back again for what's the next step? What's
So the
next step?
goal is, Winslow, you'll be back next week?
Correct. I'll be
So-
back next Tuesday.
So next week, it may not be in the packet, but as soon as we get them, we'll forward the updated documents. He'll be here to brief the board. And they'll be on the agenda for board to approve the renewals of the policies that he talked about tonight. Then he will give an updated brief next Tuesday night.
That sounds good. Great. Thank you
Thank you,
very
Chair.
much.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Be safe.
Thank you. All right, that moves us forward on the agenda to item 8B, which is capital facilities planning for discussion with Chief Eastman.
Thank you, Chair Kenny. I don't have a lot for the board tonight. I kind of want to. We had a subcommittee meeting with the capital facilities subcommittee. I want to say on Monday. Kind of talked about, the short-term strategy that staff's going to take and work with the planning committee, the capital cities planning committee, on the short-term, some of the quick things that we need to do. We need to get our bond attorney engagement letter on board. We're having a conversation, and I know we talked about it at a meeting about a municipal fiduciary. The other thing with, and for the Capital City Subcommittee, we're about 45 days out from permit completion for Station 22. I just found that out this morning. But to get a construction management, project management firm that we've identified as who we want to go with, who's done a lot of work. They just got on with Surfer. They're doing Marysville. They did Kirkland, and they're who we'd like to use to get an agreement with them so they can help us bid Station 22, use Station 22 for lack of a better term, as a trial to see if they're a good fit. I'm confident they are, and then have a secondary agreement with that goes into the capital studies plan, and have them work with us to fulfill that agreement. Those dollar amounts over time of agreements exceed my threshold of expenditure. So what staff, in conversation with the CFP subcommittee, is to get those agreements up, get them, vet them, and have a conversation with the subcommittee, then bring them back before the board for the board to authorize moving forward with the bond council, with the municipal fiduciary, if we choose to do one, and the project management firm. And then allow me to sign that, or Sean to sign it, depending on when that is. And we're trying to get those 3 things done quickly. I'm hoping at the meeting on the 26th with the subcommittee to bring those, at least 2 of those 3 agreements forward, talk it through the subcommittee, and then hopefully have a conversation February 1st. And depending on how our conversation goes, this subcommittee, bring them on for discussion and possible action. and the things we're talking about are people that work on our side of the table. They work for the best interests of the RFA, for the project management, construction management firm. We'll bring them on because we're about to go to, RFP for Station 22, and we'll bring them in at the very beginning and work through that. So I wanted to let you know that expect that as staff does their work, brings it before the committee, and then at subsequent meetings, when the committee's good with where we are, to bring that forward to the board. And those items, because of the dollar amount, I would prefer them to be approved, move forward, and allow, me or Sean, depending on when we do that, to move those forward just because of the dollar amount that goes along with it. Christy continues to work on the communication plan. We had great dialogue at the committee meeting on Monday. And Christy continues to do that work. We continue to discuss it with the executive staff. I'm very pleased at where we are. And I say that because it would be very easy to get behind the curve. I think we're in a good place, and the goal is to continue leaning forward. We are going to get bumps in the road, but we don't want to be behind and create our own bump in the road. So that's kind of where we are. There'll be more briefs with more detail in the coming weeks, but I think it's important that we have this conversation often so the board knows where we are, to ensure we don't get behind, and make sure we ask questions, we're answering questions as we go. And that would be my quick update. And I guess I would look to any of the folks on the committee or the chair of the Capital City Subcommittee if you had anything to add for the CFP report today.
Commissioner Wackelman?
Yeah, thank you. I thought that was a very good detailed report of the conversation that we had with, just emphasis on making sure that we are ahead of schedule rather than getting behind, because this is something that if we do not plan accordingly can have significant impact on results come election time. So that is emphasis, but I'm very pleased with what the committee talked about and also with the communications plan that is being designed.
Commissioner Lawrence?
Yes, and I'm sure things would get to move a lot faster and a lot smoother with the new committee chair that we have.
Very good. So more to come, right, Chief?
Yep. And again, I think you'll see this on the agenda. I think every meeting is tentatively put for us to, and if there's nothing to report, we'll tell you that. But I think maybe next week, there won't be a whole lot, but come in the months after that, there'll be stuff to talk about as we move forward. So I look forward to continuing the conversation. This is an important topic, and there's a lot of work happening behind the scenes, and the staff is continuing to do it. And we've committed, and the Capital City Subcommittee of the board is committed to meeting twice a month at a minimum as we go. So we're getting ready to roll up our sleeves and run. So thank you. That's all I have for that tonight.
Great. Thank you, Chief. Next up in the agenda, we have 8C, which is the 2026 organizational goals and board priorities for discussion. And this is from page 9 of the packet. And so Chief Eastman and his staff put together a few items from the staff perspective of important items for 2026. You can see them there at the bottom of page 9. What I'd like to propose is that commissioners can add stuff that, if this is the start of a list, commissioners can add things to the list for the board to consider. My proposal would be send whatever you think should be added to the list to Ms. Blankenship, ideally by noon on Friday. And she will collect that together and we'll add that to the list so we can see and discuss it next Tuesday, not to decide anything, but see what the list is. I mean, you can add things after Friday too, but it'd just be nice if you can get it in by Friday at noon. If you have anything to add, you don't have to, but if you want to. And that way we'll have an expanded list. And then the plan would be after next Tuesday, after we, at the third meeting of the month, talk about them, then we'll decide how many things you can, like, I don't want to say vote for, but put a sticker on, I guess would be, put a sticker on in anticipation of the first meeting of February, where we would decide what the priorities are. So, but this next week is an opportunity for commissioners to add items. You see the staff perspective. Now, taking that, if that's good enough for you, great. But if there's things you'd like to add, and there's no wrong answers. So feel free. And but are there other thoughts about board priorities for 2026, either process or substance? Okay, sounds good. Well, we'll be back talking about it next week. All right, that takes us forward then to item 8D, which is board retreat spring workshop. I wanted to put this on because we have not had a board retreat, like a true go away retreat now in a number of years. I want to say the last go out of town retreat was to Semiahmoo, Ms. Blankenship, and that's been a number of years. And so we have new commissioner on board with the board, so I at least wanted to get you thinking about, do we want to do a board retreat? Which of course would beg the question of, well, what kind of retreat? We have done other things that we've called a retreat that have been here in the board meeting room, either with a facilitated consultant usually. That begs the question of what consultant, but that, it's a question for a separate day. The reason why I think it's important to think about it here at the early part of the year is that if we were going to do something like the Semiahmoo 2-day retreat with a facilitated consultant, there's a lot of logistics to put that on and a lot of scheduling amongst all of our schedules to find a good time. And so we don't want to let that drift into the year. We want to get that on the calendar to make it happen. So I was hoping to generate a discussion, or at least to think about it. We'll come back to another meeting soon to talk about it, about retreat. Does that make sense? Do we not want to do it? Just for illustrative purposes, because I also put on their workshop. We usually do a spring workshop. Typically it's all day. We did it a little later last year. It was early June. Typically we do it anywhere from late April into May. Last year, early June. And that tends to be not budget focused. There's always a little bit of budget in there because we're always thinking about budget, but it's not as budget focused, and it tends to be a little more future focused and maybe organizational or unit focused about what are substantively going on in some of the units, because we're not under the pressure of the budget cycle. In the more distant past, we've also had a fall workshop, typically in September. We haven't done that in a number of years, and I'm not necessarily pushing that. I'm just saying we have done that previously. That has been a little more budget focused, and in the past has been a 1 day. Typically in the past it had been on a Friday. So that's kind of the range of a spring workshop just focused on kind of our longer term issues, all the way to a 2-day go away facilitated retreat. And that's, in my mind, that's kind of the spectrum. I guess it could be more, it could be less. And so I wanted to raise the issue now here at the first of the year so we can think about it. But if there are any thoughts about it now, I'd love to entertain a conversation. Commissioner Furno.
Yeah, I support the idea. I think that we have enough change, major change, that's coming our way in 2026. Changing of leadership, for example. We have a CBA before us that we will be agreeing to. We have a new commissioner on board. I think there's enough opportunity to bring us together, talk about where we've been, where we are, and where we're going, what the vision is, and our shared goals. So I do support that.
Any other thoughts? Commissioner Winkelmann.
Being the new guy, I would appreciate that, because ensuring that we are one team will go a long ways, and I want to make sure that I am updated and understanding a lot of terms and conversations that are happening that, at this moment in time, I'm, as we'd say in the aviation, I'm holding on to the stabilator, hoping I don't get knocked off. So I'd really appreciate the opportunity for these workshops.
Any other thoughts, discussion, conversation? Well, if you do have something more, feel free to send me an email or Ms. Blankenship an email, and we'll have it back on the agenda either at the next meeting or the meeting thereafter. But we'll talk about it again soon and see if we can have a meeting of the minds around what might work for the board this year. Thank you. All right, that moves us forward on the agenda then to new business, and we start with 9A, which is 2025 year in review, a presentation with Chief Eastman, Success in Service. Chief Eastman.
Thank you again, Chair Kenny. Jason, I'm gonna have you come up and sit with the group. Commissioner Farinoff, this is for you. You're the one that started the conversation about looking at 2025 and I got to thinking about it after that meeting when you brought it up, and we're really good at a lot of things we do in this organization. We're great at a lot of things. One of the things we're not as good at is looking at actually what we've done. Right? I mean, we're extremely good. I look at the folks that sit at the dais. I look at where we are fiscally in this organization and the fiscal health of this organization. And we've never reflected upon ourselves and say, look at where we are. And look at how, and again, you can't always compare agency to agency is not always apples to apples. I understand that. But we've been a very fiscally smart organization for the 30 years I've been here. And I don't think we've ever sat in a room, had a conversation, and looked at actually what we do and the fact that we are. Governmental entities get beat up all the time about we're an expensive organization. We collect tax dollars from folks and we need to keep up with the cost of doing business. The part that we don't talk about a whole lot is the fact that we are very fiscally smart. It starts at the electeds. Look at my staff. Go look at the folks in the street. They don't just spend the taxpayers' money for the sake of spending the taxpayers' money. We don't have the end of the year coming where they go, oh, I got $50,000 left on my budget. I need to go buy something I don't need. We don't do that. We don't do that. And as Christy helped me think about this and the staff, I'd like to show you just some of the high level things that we did in 25. And I'm proud of what this organization's accomplished, and I'm hoping you are too. And it's not just me. I mean, there's been a lot of time where I get accolades and credit for the work that my staff does or based on the decision that the Board of Commissioners make. And because I'm in the position I'm in the organization, I get a lot of credit for work that you've done up at the dais and for what my team and the staff in the streets have done. So I guess I just like to go and do a high level overview of our successes in 2025, and there's a lot. Next slide, Christy. So again, I think this is the highest cardiac survival rate we've ever had. We've been teetering a lot, but 71.4 is exceptional. And it's more than just the number, right? 71.4, we talk about it. We like to tell people we're good, but how did we get there? How did we actually get to that place? I got a Board of Commissioners that give us the resources we need to do the work we do. I've got folks in the EMS office and the folks in the operations division that establish best practice and provide the citizens that we provide service to the best chance of survival when they stop breathing, the heart stops. It's not the number. The number is a result of the great work that the staff and the crews do, the leadership that happens, and the support we get from the board. And so we talk about this number a lot. I don't think we've ever reflected on why that number's there. Right? It starts with you. You support and provide the resources that this organization needs to go do that great work. The executive staff and the senior staff do their job leading the organization, and the folks in the street go deliver. And there's the proof, right? And we did this. And again, my first full year as the fire chief, and we had a cardiac survival rate of 71.4. But it's bigger than that. Next slide, please. I'm really proud of this one too. Edmonds, successful annexation of the RFA, was probably the one that took a lot of work. I think we all knew it was going to be successful. I still missed it by about a half a point, Commissioner Kinney. But here's the important thing outside of having the city of Edmonds residents become part of the family RFA is look at the map next to it. If you notice, it's all green. The one part that's orange, the reason it's orange is because it had better than 82% yes rate. Okay. We actually, in the city of Edmonds, in every single precinct, got better than 50% yes vote to annex into the RFA. I would venture to say that has not happened since. And I don't think it's happened up until this point in time. Now, again, great result. How did we get there? Right? I think it goes back, and Commissioner Wittes, if you're on, it goes back that far. It goes back to when I got hired in 1996. And we had this conversation about providing ALS service, and we brought it in-house. It's how I got hired. It wasn't very long after the big snowstorm in 96 where Fire District 1 wanted paramedics in the fire department because of that snowstorm, and the medics stayed in the bowl, wouldn't come up the hill. I had the privilege of being the first medic that actually was working out of Station 21 back in the Christmas of 96. The conversation about regionalization happened then, the first year I was employed here. Look at where we went, and look at what we become. How did we get there? Well, I point to the dais. You had the political will to do that. Some of it was risk, some of it was chance. But at the end of the day, it was all about the people we serve. Then you look at my staff and the staff that was before me, and the leadership they did to enter into first merge Fire District 1 and District 11, and then enter into a consolidated administration with the City of Montlake Terrace. Brought City of Montlake Terrace, City of Briar under contract. Fast forward, 2010, we brought in the City of Edmonds under contract. Fast forward to something none of us thought would happen was we created an RFA with the City of Linwood. Nobody in this room would have thought that would have been the first one we did it with. Most of us predicted to be Montlake Terrace and Briar. And then fast forward, and then we bring on the City of Mill Creek. Why'd that happen? It's because I had electeds, commissioners that had vision. I had executive staff that took that vision and helped put it into action. And I had a rank and file that does such good work that we passed it, the last city that annexed into the RFA, at better than 50% in every single precinct in that jurisdiction. And that wasn't a small jurisdiction. Go back and add to the fact that Mill Creek came in at over 75%, yes. City of Briar came in at over 77%, yes. And the City of Montlake Terrace came in at 92%. Again, our success is us, and it started a long time ago and it's continued. Next slide. Probably one of the few times that in a commissioner meeting, I got put on my heels, Commissioner Kenny. If we go back and I think it was 3-4 years and talk about the fire marshal's office and some of the challenges that we faced, the contracts that we put into play. And when we brought in the city of Montlake Terrace and Briar, the city of Montlake Terrace required an ILA to provide fire marshal services. I think it was the last meeting in December, Commissioner Kenny, if I remember correctly. And the brief I was giving the board was the fact that we're very expensive, and the way the contracts are set out is they cover the cost of the employees, and that the city was looking at maybe going a different way and civilianizing the fire marshal's office and not utilizing us. And Commissioner Kenny started the conversation about we need to keep our seat at the table. And I think it was echoed by Commissioner Lawrence and the rest of the folks on the board saying yes. And I will say that was probably, I never saw that coming. Again, where we are with the fire marshal's office is now a core program within the RFA. We've got agreements with our cities that do it how traditionally it's done, where we have a fee schedule and they collect it and reimburse. We're working through that. It's still a work in progress. We're working on legislative issues to give us the statutory authority to do some of that work outside of ILAs to include unincorporated RFA. And again, I go back to say, how did we get there? Because I will tell you, leading up to that meeting, and there's folks sitting with in my team, we were at a crossroads, and I was in a position where I thought we were getting out of the fire marshal game. We're not, and it's growing. Why did that happen? Again, it's the leadership from the board. The board started this conversation and directed me at the time to go make it happen. Again, it wasn't me that made it happen. You look at Chief Sherman, who was key in drafting ILAs and key in getting us to understand where we were, along with Chief Anderson and the rest of the DFM group. And now we are moving in a place and moving faster than I actually thought we were when it comes to the fire marshal's office. We still have work to do. We still have to continue to grow the division to meet the needs and the expectations that we have. But I am quite confident that the team we have in the fire marshal's office will exceed my expectations and will provide those functions to the citizens we serve and continue to do that. And the legislative work will be successful. I'm not sure we'll get where we want to go at the end of this short session. We do have a Senate companion bill being worked through. But again, these things take time and we'll continue that effort. But again, this works, this specifically, and where we got with fire prevention or fire marshal's office, fire code officials was actually direct leadership from the Board of Commissioners. And I'm going to say thank you, because before that conversation happened, I wasn't sure what we were going to do. And I was kind of at a loss. And so, again, huge success. You guys may not have heard a lot about this. We continue to talk about regionalization. You've heard of the training academy and the consortium and the 6 agencies and the great work that's been going on there. Jason, was it what, 18 months ago? 18 months ago, if you remember back in 2018 when the training consortium first started, the vision was never just to keep that at the academy level. The intent is to grow and have regionalized training for all of us, and all the reasons why. Surfer District 4 and Everett and our agency work together every single day. District 4, maybe not District 4, Everett, Surfer are first in on multiple areas on the border for us. We reciprocate that. I've got agencies that work as much with Everett Fire as they do with our own people. I've got engine companies that are on the east side of the RFA that run far more calls with Surfer. What we've done with that is we train the same, we educate them the same, and of the folks that we've hired over the last 8 years, they all know everybody because they all went to the same academy. We have now taken that where, I guess it was kind of a pilot, for lack of a better term. Jace, correct me if I'm wrong. Because the vision is as the consortium ILAs were expiring, to get us to where we meant to go in the first place was not just the consortium, but to actually do training together. It works, right? We brought Surfer District 4 and Everett in the room. There was a point in time where our training folks were meeting in District 4, they were meeting in District 7, they were meeting downstairs. And they did a lot of great work. I think, more than what we just thought. They did things like found out that our defibrillators were programmed differently at each agency and went and fixed it and came up with a common way. So Surfers, defibrillators, District 4, Everett, and ours all work the same way, and they're all programmed the same way. Little things like that. But what we realize is actually the vision of having a regional training effort actually works, and it will work. And because of that, we are in this position where the board will be hearing about it shortly, is a updated interlocal agreement for, I'm calling it the consortium/alliance ILA, which takes us to the next place, which it's the training academy, and then incorporates more of training with the vision of having a training group that does training for us, the region. And again, how do we get here? We have support from the board that allows us to go explore these things. I have staff that is willing to go outside and draw outside the lines to get where we need to go, and hence it's those things are coming, and you will be seeing, I don't know if I'll be the one bringing it to you, but Chief Maxwell will, about a new ILA that continues that effort and long into the future. Volunteer resource, I'm actually proud of this too. Extremely proud of this. Is in 2023 we had eight folks in the volunteer program. As of today, we have 25. We just onboarded. We're just in the process of onboarding 7, and I got 5 more in the pipeline, which will bring us to 30. I don't think we've been that high yet, have we, Jace? And I know that they're doing another recruiting drive for the fall, early fall. And I see that continuing. What this brings is also opportunity. Chief Chalfant has been working with the lieutenants, and one of the things that I've been trying to do is make them part of, and not be them and us. It's just we, right? And that hasn't always been easy, right? But I look at them, and my staff looks at them as they're part of our agency, just like everybody else. They're not independent. We're not treating them. They are the we. And John's working on ensuring that they're not gonna be, for lack of a better term, the stepchild of the fire service. We're not doing that. They're part of our group. And John has some cool things coming, and he's been working with the lieutenants as far as training, because onboarding people is not easy. And he's got some ideas to help that. And I think it will open up the opportunity as we continue the success of being able to bring people in that position. Chief Maxwell has some vision of where he'd like that to go. I'm happy to say I'm going to leave you with 30 folks. Go have fun, because I think it gives us the opportunity to go move. The one thing I will also tell you is today we had our Fire Corps volunteers. We brought on 9 today. We have a total of 30. Shawnery and that team, I don't always get to see what they do. I do know the work because I hear from Christy all the time. I got to meet a lot of them today. And again, and I didn't add it to the slide, but I want you to know we brought on 9 Fire Corps volunteers today, which brings our total to 30 in the organization. Which again, it's pretty cool. And they're coming to us. It's significant. So, we talked about economics and fiscally, this organization and if we look at, and most of you have seen this slide before, if you look at folks within in the county and look at where we are when you take our resources that we collect from the taxpayer, both in property tax and benefit charge, for us, it's equivalent to $1.33 a thousand. If you go look at where everybody else is at, if you look to the left, it's typically your smaller Darrington, Oso, Hat Island, Lake Rossinger, your extremely small departments that, may have part paid but don't have full-time staff. And then you look at the agencies to the right, Marysville, Snohomish Regional, Getchell, Granite, North County, and again, I understand that the cents per thousand is a function of assessed value too. I understand that. But we watch the dollars and the resources, and we ask the citizens for what we need. And again, we are fiscally very smart in what we do, and that's another way to look at it. And again, that's part of it's me and my staff, and the other part of it's the board. We work that together, and as a result, we are very fiscally responsible, in my opinion, with the dollars that the citizens give us to provide the service that we provide. Planning for the future. You guys are about to engage in that in the next 3 months again with Chief Maxwell and the team. We did a lot of work in the first part of 2025, looking at where we are and where we need to be, and I think from not just staff's perspective but the board's perspective, we looked out. Where do we think we need to be in 15 years? Roll things back. We came up with a organizational roadmap that looked at how we deploy, looked at staffing from not just uniform staff, but the administrative staff, and where do we need to be? We were very successful in the succession of me retiring and bringing Chief Maxwell in. That was very deliberate. We did the same thing with operations as Chief Isotelo goes into retirement, and we were able to bring John in and get a little bit of overlap time and have smooth transition at the senior levels in the organization. And why does that happen? The board supports that, right? And we will probably have one of the better transitions of leadership. And it's not just the fire chief, because like I said, Jason has a whole lot of tenure in this organization. And as we go, allowing Jason and bringing John in, and having overlap time, I think has been invaluable. I look at John and I know that everybody's capable without it. John didn't need Jason. I knew that. Sean doesn't need me either. I know that too. But there is a lot of things as you go where it makes John a little bit more efficient. There are things that Jason can't write, I can't write, and having the board allow us to move people and have that transition happen, it is betterment for the whole organization as a whole. And again, that was when you look at the redeployment, the organizational roadmap, those were major changes organizationally that I'm exceptionally proud of. But that was collaborative work by both the board and the staff. Next slide. Here we go, 2026 bond. We actually got to a place where the board made a decision and directed me as the fire chief to plan for a 2026 general election for the capital facilities plan and the bond to fund it and the bond to fund it. That was 10 years of work, both from staff's perspective and the board's perspective. We spent a lot of time. We've done a due diligence. It's 6 fire station replacements, it's 4 station renovations and 4 new fire stations. And then the support facilities that go along with it. That will be one of the things we talk about the most in 2026. And again, everybody got this to the end, and we still have work to do. But again, staff was able to provide a very, very comprehensive facilities plan. And the board did their due diligence. And the board took the step and provided leadership to move us forward, and ask the voters so we can implement the plan. Huge accomplishment, in my opinion, for 2026 or for 2025. And personally, for me, it's another bookend. I was able to start it in 2016 and get it at least to the spot where the board was in a position where they were comfortable enough to move forward with the ballot measure. And then you got the timeline. Here's a precursor to the work that Christie's been doing, and some of the work that the board and staff will continue to work together on, to an end where hopefully in 2027, you're talking about a 2026 accomplishment of passing a bond measure to move forward with the future capital needs of the organization moving forward. Is that the last slide? So I guess with that, I just like to say thanks. It's been a great 2025. We did a lot of things. We had great dialogue between staff and the board. And I truly appreciate it. The one thing that's not on that we're going to do later on tonight, which I didn't think I was going to be able to do before I left, is you have 1828 successor agreement that will be before you later this afternoon. And that's kind of, I know we're doing it in 2026, but the negotiations was done in 2025. That's the icing on the cake for me. We were able to actually complete that in 2025. And when you look at what we did accomplish as an organization in 2025, that is a huge list. And we should be proud of it as an organization. And I know we don't do that well, but I guess I'd like my staff and the board to just reflect. We did a lot of work. And I say we because it was we. It was all of us that did that and got us to where we are today. As the fire chief, I'm thankful and grateful. Not very many fire chiefs have a year like that in a year. There's fire chiefs that don't have a career like that, let alone a year. So I want to say thanks.
Thank you, Chief.
You're looking at the players that did it on my team. I guess I'd like to thank them too. So with that, Commissioner Kenny, I'm done.
We have a few questions, then we'll go to our regular break. I've got Commissioner Lawrence first, then Commissioner Fernhoff. Commissioner Lawrence.
Yeah, well, I guess
Sure.
we all accomplished a lot. You accomplished a lot. But underlying these accomplishments is the last few years we promoted from within. We're bringing up our own future leaders, if not from this, from our RFA, at least, people that we know in the local area that we can tap into. And I think that says a lot about how those concepts changed over the years. And yeah, good job, everybody.
Commissioner Fernhoff.
Yes, Chief, thanks for singling me out and thanks for giving us the perspective of where we've been. And we'll be talking about obviously where we are and where we're going, and nomenclature that you will understand. And I extend this to you and your staff. Bravo Zulu.
Commissioner Chan.
Probably where would be your explanation? I apologize, probably somebody needed explanations. I didn't feel too well this afternoon, so I took medicines but then set my alarm clock 5:30 in the morning instead of PM. So I have a very good rest. So I'm very good. So no, it is great, but except that I think again, a lot of partner, I consider all the cities our partners, right? We got to let them in. So I was in the Linwood meeting yesterday, last night, all night, okay? Before that, I already alert because the mayor is a very good friend of mine. Last week, I said, hey, do you know that we are having a news? Oh, he said, no, I didn't know. Okay, and also that in Edmonds, I have, you know me, I know a lot of people in Edmonds, and I gave them a hint. They said, hey, we're gonna have that. What? How come you guys, another new chief again? Remember? It's not what, 2 years ago? Remember? And then at that time, we have you and Hovers went to our Asian Service Center for Chinese New Year, and then you sit right next to, actually the whole table, Melissa was in there, the mayor, and then people say, wait a minute, what, my fellow Asian say, wait, how come you put all your fire people in the main table, right? We are special. But that is the biggest, I talked to Commissioner Ed already. Since he left, every single transition is very bad, okay? And then we got, you know, we have what, assistant chief, you know, just suddenly, boom, came in interim, right? And then also, it just to them is we are not really transition very good. So I tell them, yeah, we have been working for the last 6 months already for a transition, but at that time we haven't made the solution yet. We haven't resolution. We did not make announcement and everything else. So it's very critical. I know I'm glad that when I sent them the discussion, but I went ahead and do that, and now we got to. It's kind of I know, and then you guys scrambling, you know what day to do it. So now the word out, and so even though a lot of people, we have a lot of new mayor and new council member. So I think we need to. I think tomorrow we're going to be going for intergovernmental committee and government. Okay, what is it now? We probably need to delegate some commissioner to be really pay attention, be really taking each city to do it. So I know you saw the plan, so I think that's very much. I think we probably need a retreat. Is that, you guys discussed about that already?
We did, yes.
Yeah, retreat. But my imagination is that in June, I think it's a good time to the state of most city have the state of the city status, right? We should have a big one called the state of the five district, because we need to educate the voter, okay? I come from a business point of view. It's not, you got to touch them, how many touch you do before they don't get it the first time, right? And also they are the voter, and then we are working with our city, okay? And our cities, can help us to get the message out. And I think the first thing they do, Mill Creek was a big example of that, right? They didn't know about it, they didn't know a plan or whatever it is. Sometimes we communicate to the staff, but they never outflow to the fire. And I still remember when I first started, Commissioner Atwood and then I think you mentioned too something that basically staff to staff, elected to elected communication is critical. I don't think it's appropriate. Yeah.
Commissioner Chen.
Okay.
We're going to talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
Change of command ceremony.
Okay.
Do you have anything else on 2025 accomplishments?
Oh, I agree with every single thing. I think a commissioner accomplish a lot. Get involved. Yeah. Thank you.
Commissioner Wonkelman.
I first and foremost want to just send my appreciation and gratitude to the leadership team and to all the labor force. I had the opportunity of witnessing this as a citizen observer, working with different elements within the community, within the team. And what I saw was an incredible professionalism. I've been a part of some, revered teams that accomplished critical missions, and I see that within this organization. And I am just absolutely pleased. One thing I will say is that the trust rate of the organization is outstanding within the community from people I've talked to. And the only other thing is that I'm, in terms of and kind of hitting on is I wish the community understood the depth of impact that this organization is having through programs like the CRP, through what you're doing with EMS, fire, because it goes much further than just what we're seeing in the newspaper. It's going much further than just the calls we're responding to. The impact of this organization is incredible, and I think it sets a national standard to what a fire department should be. And so thank you for all of the incredible leadership. It starts with the leadership team, and then it trickles down into each of the individuals' boots on the ground, and it is just a stellar organization. So thank you.
Anything else on 2025 accomplishments? If not, we'll go to our regular break a little bit late, and then we'll come back to take on our next item on the agenda, which is the change of command ceremony. So we'll take let's make it about a 12-minute break till 9 o'clock. Without objection, we'll be in a brief recess. Ready to go back on the record and continue with the meeting out of our recess. And next up is going to be item 9B on the agenda, which is change of command ceremony for discussion. And so we have our change of command from Chief Eastman to Chief Maxwell coming up. The bare bones details of that are a Tuesday, January 27th, 2 p.m., Station 21, if I recall correctly. But I was hoping to have Chief Eastman or Chief Maxwell or Director Veely talk a little bit about kind of some of the planning regarding that, some of the notice that happened for that, invitations on Friday and Monday, and kind of what that day looks like, and then questions and inquiry from the board members. So if we could talk a little bit about the plans and a little bit about the, maybe a little bit about the why of, because in the past, sometimes it's been the change of command has been here. Sometimes it's not even been here. And Chief Eastman in the past had mentioned something like, let's rent out the Linwood Convention Center. So you got the Linwood Convention Center on one hand, you've got, something happened in a back room on the other, and a large spectrum in between. And the decision is for Station 21 in the Bay on the 27th at 2 p.m. So let's talk a little bit about what the plan is and have a discussion about it. Director Veely.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenny. Well, Commissioner Kenny and I began having this conversation shortly before the holidays, and we both agreed that this was really an opportunity to acknowledge this very smooth transition for our organization. It not only puts out a message to the public that, we're continuing business as usual with service at the top of mind, but it also sends that message to our cities and our partners. And so it is important to acknowledge this moment. I'm not as familiar with the history of our transitions, but it's my understanding that this is significantly smooth. So we talked a little bit about what that should look like. And so we decided on Station 21 as the venue. We've been having our retirement and recognition ceremonies at Station 21, and they've gone quite well. It's nice to have these at a fire station when we can because it feels like home, and it feels like we're inviting people into our home to join us for this event. And so, we've been working behind the scenes. Susan Jorling, who is Chief Eastman's executive assistant, has been such an integral player in planning this ceremony, and also Shawnery Guzman, Megan LeBlanc, and many others. But there's a lot of planning going on the logistics. And so we're getting the, refreshments ordered, and we'll get, the chairs set up and the bay cleaned and all of those things. But what was a pressing priority was how are we going to communicate this change of command to our partners? And so Commissioner Kenny and I had a few discussions about this. And so we were able to quickly get some communication out to our city partners on Friday. There was an email sent individually to every mayor, every city council member, and others who are significant, like our former liaisons, on Friday. We also sent that same communication to the county executive and our county council members. And so that was a very specific communication that spoke about the transition, how long this transition had been planned, and how it was very intentional to promote from within the organization and continue things business as usual. So today and yesterday, we continued sending out more invitations to the county fire chiefs, to county police chiefs, to our partners at SCIMSA, Support 7, Snow 911, and many others. I'm probably forgetting some off the top of my head. So that's been our priority right now. And so moving forward, we're just nailing down some of the logistics, just kind of what are we going to do at the ceremony. We will have a retirement presentation for Chief Eastman, and then we will have a swearing in for Chief Maxwell. And so there will be a little bit of elements of both congratulating Chief Eastman on his 30-year tenure and successes here, and then welcoming Chief Maxwell and the excitement of what's to come. So that's what we have planned. We have had a lot of RSVPs already, so we do expect a large crowd in attendance. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Yes, Commissioner Fernhoff, then Commissioner Chan. Commissioner Fernhoff.
Thank you for that update. What was the date again?
It's January 27th. That's a Tuesday.
It's a Tuesday. Okay.
Yes.
I encourage all of our board members, if possible, to attend. I think this is a very special time. I'm told that North County does something very special for their indoctrination of a chief, and I'm still trying to get the details of that. But I don't want us to fall short of the mark that's been established by others. Also, I think we discussed, Chief Maxwell and I, that he won't be arriving on a pony. He'll be riding on a white steed. That will set him apart as well. So,
Commissioner Chan.
Well, the critical part, what was in the refreshment? I'm just joking here. So I'm just trying to check the weather on 27. What do you know? What is it like on that day?
Well, Penny has told me that her 2-week forecast predicts some showers and possible snowfall.
Oh.
The low is going to be 37, the high is going to be 47. They're saying scattered.
Oh my goodness. Okay, but
Be an indoor.
so while we're sure the door's going down, we need a lot of heater in that place. That's critical. But actually, on the serious questions, have we got the press release yet?
So that was one thing that Commissioner Kenny and I had talked a little bit about. And so that's good to have another discussion about that. There's a couple of ways we can go about doing a press release. My plan was to do two. One in regards to Chief Eastman's retirement, and then one welcoming Chief Maxwell. After giving it some thought, I do think that sooner is probably better to go ahead and announce Chief Eastman's retirement now that we've already told, our important partners. Now we can release that information to the public. And in doing so, I will be inviting some media members to come to the ceremony if they wish. And then my thought is to do an additional news release announcing Chief Maxwell, welcoming Chief Maxwell the first week of his tenure.
Right, I think that's critical because we cannot just, people keep on thinking, oh, it's a sudden thing, but I assume in press release, you're probably saying that this has been planned in the last 6 months, but just, just come to you. Yeah.
Yes, we can definitely do that.
I think that's critical. I think especially this year, any positive thing to get in the PR on the press release
Yes.
is good for us. Get our names out there.
Yes,
Thank you.
definitely.
Any other questions, comments, discussion about the change of command ceremony? Everybody is invited and encouraged to attend if you can. It is during the middle of the day, so if you can't, that's totally understandable, but we should have a good turnout, some refreshments afterwards, and yeah, it'll be a nice, and it's, it's kind of a balance between the back room and the Linwood Convention Center. It's a compromise position involving the two chiefs. So it was I don't know if there was any arm wrestling involved, but it's a compromise. They didn't tell me, so it was already out the door. Okay, well, it's nice, but we may end up filling the bay, so it's quite a few people just as it is. So yeah, it will be nice. So encourage everybody to come out. Great. Director Veal, anything else you want to say about maybe could you give an update at next week's meeting? It'll be the last meeting before the 27th.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
Okay.
that'd be great.
That sounds good. Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so that moves us forward then to item 9C, redistricting for discussion. I wanted to raise this issue because during the Edmonds annexation election, I talked with numerous people that wanted to know about redistricting and when it would happen. And I said, well, that there's other things going on in 2025, but the first quarter of 2026, we will begin the process of addressing redistricting. So I wanted to meet that promise and talk a little bit about a process for it. We have used, now, of course, I cannot remember his name, but Snohomish Data Systems. Bob Schweitzer, Snohomish Data Systems, has been our data consultant to help us draw the maps at least twice, maybe 3 times, 4 times, a number of times, and has been very helpful to the board. So I wanted to suggest a process where we invite him to come and speak with us. We talk about what we're interested in, perhaps on a monthly basis at work sessions as we move through the year, so that we're not trying to get it done in like a month. But on the other hand, I don't want to unnecessarily delay, so that we can expeditiously move forward on redistricting now that Edmonds is part of South County Fire, and also have some discussion about the precise details and precise nuances of what that means, so that we can be in, better understanding of what we are, what we're looking to do. But it would be effective at any map that we have redrawn. It would be effective at the next, South County Fire off year, which we are off year, odd year election. So that would be 2027. So I think probably our minimum, we would obviously be starting out in a little bit early, but we would have to have it done. Ms. Blankenship, if we would probably have to have it done by, I'm thinking, March or April 2027 to get it done. So we have some time, but individually, people in Edmonds are interested in what we're doing with that. And so my suggestion is that we work on it. We begin the process of working on it now. And that way we can allay any fears that we've forgotten about it, or it's not going to be done, but that we get it done. And we don't have to speed through it, but it would be a good project to get done maybe a little earlier this year than later in the year. But that's just my thoughts on redistricting. We kind of have that drop dead date of March or so of 2027. So I wanted to generate some discussion about thoughts from board members about the redistricting process and when to start, what to do. Thoughts? Commissioner Furnoff.
Yeah, I know that my district, District 2, I believe borders currently the, at least really close proximity to Edmonds. What does your imagination tell you as far as expansion either of existing districts or maneuvering in a way that makes sense to
Well,
bring in that information?
it can be, we can draw it any way we want. And that's where I think thinking about some creativity with Mr. Schweitzer is going to come into play. Obviously, you're bringing in a significant population, which has to be accommodated within the lines. My understanding is nobody who is currently elected loses their position if a redistricting happens while you're seated. But yeah, I mean, the drawing of the lines, it's a political function of the board, and it is, it can be not without controversy, shall we say.
Well,
And that's why it's something I want to be sure we're out front early on and thinking about.
I would agree with that because one of his iterations of my district was a huge box drawn out in Puget Sound and then back. And somehow I had the submarine fleet included, so.
I got some comment there.
Commissioner Chan.
Well, I've been counting. Anytime Commissioner Furnoff say something, I gotta say something, so it doesn't cross my thing in there. I think I agree with you. I think the most cities that's sensitive about this is Edmonds, which they always, thinking they need more. So that's what's sensitive. But I think, the word redistricting in 2026 on the federal level is really so controversial, right?
True.
So we might want to delay as much as Paul, put the word in there. But anyway, so it's great. I mean, that can line up.
Commissioner Wonkelman.
I definitely think it's good to start the conversation on this because we want to make sure that everybody is adequately represented. And we want to make sure that, each community has a voice in this. And so bringing somebody in to start this conversation is, in my opinion, a important aspect in making sure that we are representing each community correctly. So.
I did want to say that an additional thought I had because there were very vibrant opinions, at least my recollection, in Edmonds about redistricting. This redistricting process, as opposed to our past ones, may justify a meeting, a board meeting in Edmonds, or a community meeting to talk about redistricting. Bring Mr. Schweitzer, talk about, as we're further along in the process, as we're closer to a decision. I want to say I've been involved in redistricting maybe 4 or 5 times, but the first time we did it, we did have a member of the community come and speak to the board, suggesting a different drawing of the map lines. And we actually did do that. We followed that advice and changed the lines on the map. So I have actually seen people come and speak about what the proposal is and actually have changes be made. So the people's voice matters. And I just feel like the opinions were very strong. I think it rates that type of not just outreach with a press release, but like actually go have a meeting in Edmonds and maybe other parts of South County Fire, because this is going to involve other the lines will, it'll involve all of South County Fire. But thinking of that, you need to build in some more time to the process because it won't be quick. Anyways, just a thought. I'm not saying absolutely let's do that. Just a thought about this time around. Anyways, any other thoughts, comments, discussion on redistricting? Okay, thank you. Oh, sorry. Liaison Morris.
Oh yeah, I
was
just
hoping you
wanted
were
to
gonna say something.
Thank you, Chair. Piggyback on your comments, I think this process should be done like everything else I've experienced with South County Fire, which is thoughtful and being out ahead of things, and that we would be really missing out on getting community feedback if we don't have a meeting with City Council, because my experience that even though you talk about it here, if it doesn't happen at their council meetings, not just in Edmonds, but at other cities, then they were never made aware. So I think that's going to be really important that we make that happen.
Great, thank you. Okay, thank you. Well, more to come on that as the year transpires. Next up on item 9D, we have the local 1828 collective bargaining agreement. I would like to hold off on discussion of that, take some other items so that we can take our executive session and then potentially come back to that after executive session. So next I'd like to turn to item 10, committee updates, to see if there's any committee updates. Capital Facilities Plan, Commissioner Wonkelman, anything in addition to what we've already talked about?
Nothing in addition.
Excellent, thank you. Finance and Human Resources, Commissioner Chan?
Yeah, we're gonna move the meeting because our CFO is on vacation. So we'll let people know it will be at the last week. Everybody's piling at the last week of January.
Okay, next up, intergovernmental, Commissioner, is he? Oh, yes, Commissioner Wittes, there we go. You're with us. Excellent.
Yes, I
Commissioner
am.
Wittes.
We're meeting tomorrow.
Okay, that sounds good. And Snow 911, Commissioner Furno.
Yes, good evening. There will be a meeting this Thursday, 8:30. I believe it's virtual only. So we're not meeting in person. Also, commissioners, if you were in your seat, you should have had and if you didn't have one, please let me know. National Public Safety Group, a final report and recommendations that Snow 911 had commissioned. Chief Eastman has greater detail as he has served on this committee. So if you have any questions related to the content of the report, please see him for a detailed analysis. That's end of my report, sir.
Sounds good. That moves us forward to item number 11, Commissioner comments. I just want to offer that the Snow Isle Fire Commissioners Banquet coming up on Saturday, January 24th. I know a number of you have RSVP'd, but if you're still interested, that's 6 o'clock social hour, 7 o'clock dinner, Sean O'Donnell's. It's a meeting and banquet for Snow Isle on Saturday, the 24th at that time. Other commissioner comments? Commissioner Rowland.
Two comments. One is, I guess I didn't address it at the time, but I do think that it at least needs to be spoken to. And that's when our former liaison, Schwisser, thank you, left. She made some comments about the volunteer force and identifiability at events and community confusion. One thing I did want to comment, I didn't want to get into a discussion that night, but is that subject specifically is something that the volunteers train for. It's something that they understand that the community may come to them in the case of an emergency. They have basic life-saving training, to help stabilize somebody that maybe has a cut or something like that if they're wounded or something, just like any of the members of our community who go through our what's the name of the training for tourniquet ACT training. So that's one thing. I also feel very strongly that, as the chief brought out, we've been able to grow this program and it's been a good success. And one of the things that I think has contributed to that is it isn't treated like the stepchild of the fire service. It's an integral part of what we do. Yes, the duties that they perform are, ministerial. They're helping out with things to free up our firefighters. But at the same time, when they're on scene, they need the same protection afforded to our firefighters. If there's an explosion or something like that, the bunker gear, there's many reasons that we have them in standard uniforms. And one is just morale. For them to be part of the service means something to them. It's something intangible, but something that, as someone who's worked in many volunteer organizations, both as a volunteer and in leadership, when you have volunteers, it's very hard to voluntold them anything. How they feel about what they're doing. There's a stipend, but it doesn't cover the inconvenience that we place upon them. They do this because they love their community. And feeling like they belong to the fire service and feeling like they are part of our fire service is something that I think is making the program successful. It's an intangible thing, but it is, when I'm related to morale, if we put them in, neon jumpsuits so that people knew that they were volunteers and with giant letters on them and made them stick out like sore thumbs or whatever the case may be, not that we would, but feeling like you don't belong in an organization, especially one that, bases its values on family and being all on the same team. I just think it's important. So I did want to address that because it was brought out as a concern. I want the community to know that if you do see a volunteer and you're having an emergency, go to them. They will either have a radio on them, near them, or they'll know where someone with a radio, or heck, they'll even grab their phone and dial 911 for you if it hasn't already been done, to make sure that the situation is handled. They're trained for it. They're ready for it. And I don't want any member of the community to feel like, oh, that's a volunteer, I need to go find somebody else when there's an emergency. Wanted to address that. The other thing that I wanted to address is that we often talk about our mill rate, our combined rate for taxes based off property taxes and our benefit charge. And then we compare that up to many other agencies. I think that's a valid way to look at things. But one thing that we do have to take into consideration, and it's something that was brought out by our chief, is that property values vary across the county. So one of the things that I would like to see, just more for our understanding of what our cost to our residents are, we look at our median home price here in our area when we're talking about our mill rates. But whenever we do comparisons, it's not an apples to apples there. So if there was a way, because we know based off of our mill rate, what a median house price is, basically your median household will pay X dollars a month for their fire service. Seeing the comparison of that across our compatriots, the neighboring services, I think that really, from a taxpayer's point of view, puts things into better perspective. It's not how much per 100,000, it's how much are they paying every single year for their fire service? What are they getting for that amount? And us understanding that when we look at our comparables means something. I also want to caution us, because it looks good now, but we've been through the planning and the strategy sessions about where we're going. And part of that was, I think it was over the next 6 to 10 years, the amount that we're going to be charging is going up and up and up to be able to pay for things that we've put off for a long time. We're going to have bonds and other things. I think we need to understand, yes, this is where we're at. This is where we're going. This is the impact to the taxpayer and how much they're paying every single month for our services. Because at the end of the day, when it comes to going to them for bonds, when it comes to going to them for levy lid lifts, all of these things, they aren't going to be looking at the mill rate. They're going to be looking at their property tax bill. The two line items that are on there, one for the benefit charge and one for is separated out, right? Okay, just want to make sure. And they're going to be looking at that, the impact of what we're asking them to do to their family is going to be for the year. And when municipalities are looking at annexing in, they're also going to be looking at how much am I paying a year for fire service? Not what is your mill rate compared to Marysville or to another one. So I don't want to say this or I don't mean this in a way that the data that we have isn't valuable. I just think it would be very useful for us as commissioners to see it through the lens of the cost of the taxpayer compared to their neighbors, to understand where we're at both now and where we're planning to go in the future. Thank you.
Commissioner Lawrence.
Yeah, well, I'm going to follow up on that because a few minutes ago, I brought up that subject to our future chief and Commissioner Wackelman. Why not per capita? Because I don't know what, 40% of the people live in apartments. They don't pay property tax directly. They vote on things. So maybe, and that would be a lot easier to figure out too. Just per capita, what, including children or whatever, however you want to do it, what people are paying, something like that. And that way might be more realistic wouldn't be big because the high valued homes, yeah, where they didn't pay a lot more, just that the percentages of the overall value is less. But anyway, those are some thoughts. They may not be too coherent, but they're mine.
Any other commissioner comments? Commissioner Rowland?
Just a caution, when we do look at it, and I don't want to get into statistics and how we're going to be doing this, but per capita definitely has some value, but it also shows, if there's one person living in a house, they pay the entirety for the fire service for the house versus 4 people in the house. Dividing it up by the person doesn't mean that your fire service gets cheaper if you have 2 more kids. It's valuable, definitely, but per capita does have some implications that we need to think about. That's all. And I think we can all discuss different ways to look at this that could be valuable in their own right. So thank you.
Any other commissioner comments? If not, next up, we have an executive session for collective bargaining pursuant to RCW 4231-44A. We'll call that for essentially a half hour from 9:30 to 10. We'll take a couple-minute break as we head back to executive session room. It is possible that we will come out and take action on that, and if we don't, it'll be on for action next week. And with that, we'll be in recess to executive session. Thank you. Ready to get restarted? Are we back on the record? All right, we are back on the record for our meeting. It's now 10:15 after executive session that was extended from 9:30 essentially through 10:15. We first need a motion to extend the meeting and the discussion. So I move that we extend the meeting as long as necessary to take up whatever issues come up.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to extend the meeting. Is there any discussion on the vote, on the motion? Commissioner Rowland.
I would ask that we not take this up tonight, specifically for the reason that there's information that's been provided to us, at least from one of our ex-liaisons that I didn't know about, haven't read yet, that apparently is quite lengthy. The public itself has only really had 3 days to even see this document at all. If we vote on it now, again, the public really hasn't had much of a chance to see this. We're going outside of our normal process. It normally would be taken up on a week from now. Given the late hour, I ask that we adjourn the meeting tonight and we take this up at the next meeting.
Any other discussion on the motion to extend the meeting? If not, we'll move to a vote. All in favor of extending the meeting, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes on a 6-1 vote. All right, so the meeting is extended. That takes us then to back to item 9D, which is the local 1828 collective bargaining agreement, which is on for action. And I would move that we adopt the collective bargaining agreement with local 1828 for 2026 through 2028. It's technically the agreement by and between South Snohomish County Fire and Rescue Regional Fire Authority and International Association of Firefighters Local 1828, January 1, 2026 through December 31, 2028. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Wittes. It's been moved and seconded to adopt that interlocal agreement. That collective bargaining agreement, sorry. Is there discussion on the motion?
Yes.
Commissioner Chan, go ahead.
I just thank you, our negotiating team, get all this done really quickly. I think in the past we have dragging on and on and on. And I appreciate the support of the people from our labor group have been really, what I heard is that very cooperative and have a high rate of approval on their side. I think that's a great thing and we can move on. I appreciate it very much.
And as part of discussion, I would like to have Chief Wittes, Chief Eastman. Chief Wittes can chime in a moment, but Chief Eastman, talk a little bit about the collective bargaining agreement and what it does.
So,
Just so we have some more
Yeah.
information about, well, what is it and what does it do?
yeah, so I'll give you the highlights. So as part of any process to go, you look at the comparables. We did that. And typically, when you expire, you look at what we call a market adjustment. And did the labor group fall behind of the median of the comparables? In the case of this negotiations, they were about 4.7%, was what the market adjustment would be. As we talked with labor, and I would say we had a very collaborative conversation with them. We met on several occasions. We met in this room most of the time, and have had very free-flowing conversations. And I appreciate labor for doing it that way versus some of the traditional ways we've done in the past. And in that conversation, in lieu of increasing their wage for their market adjustment, we reduced the number of debit days, reduction of 5 debit days. Multitude of reasons why we've done that. I think moving forward, the workforce is changing, work-life balance. Debit days tend to be days that the firefighters don't like to work, and that this solves some of those issues that management's been working on for a while. And it put their work week right close to the median of what everybody else in the comparable groups are. So it made sense to do. So part of the market adjustment, or the majority of the market adjustment, was as a result of reduction of work week. We did that by reduction of debit days. They went from a 47 to 6-hour work week to a 45-hour work week. So that was what got them back on par with the folks within the comparable group. Then when you go look at the rest of the compensation side, differentials between ranks, the changes there for captains and battalion chiefs were done based on the median of the contracts of the comparable groups. We got a reduction of sick hours, monthly sick hour accrual. We went from 18 hours to 14, again, a function of the median of the comparables. There was a couple things that we got, like for people that assigned to days, got a day differential from 7% to 10%. In the current market, it's hard to get shift employees to work the 40-hour work week in a traditional 5-day week or 4-day week. And as we move forward, to make sure we have quality people to do the work that's not all on the fire engines or the medic units, to do that, we did some things with the Marine unit at the last contract. This one, we'll deal with the Marine unit specialty, just like we do with our hazmat and rescue. We'll have 24 dedicated, I think that's the number, 24 dedicated Marine unit folks now, 12 more than what we've been paying for. I'm trying to figure, now I lost my train of thought going down that path. Those were the big monetary changes out that were, again, getting the current contract into the median or the middle of the comparable groups. One of the big things for the board is the PAU MOU that we had independent of the contract is now embedded in the agreement. That was and there was some cleanup language in there that was good. And now that MOU and the history of that MOU, for those that have been around a long time, having that actually embedded in the contract is for us is a good thing. I think labor concurred with that too, to have that in the agreement. And there were other cleanup language. I called it maturing of the organization language throughout the agreement that I think lets the organization lean into the future. They weren't monetary things. They were more a lot of the things that we needed from an administrative perspective and operational perspective to help smooth and look forward into where we need to go operationally. And I'm going to say it wasn't real big changes, but I would use the term we modernized the language to, because some of that contract I helped negotiate 26 years ago. And so some of it we've matured the language to where we are today, fast forward, 26 years into the future. So those were the big changes. From an economic perspective, and how we landed there. And it's they're number 3 in the comps. Part of that has to do with vacation, a few of the vacation, we changed some vacation accrual language or vacation accruals as a result of the median of the contract. Our folks that were junior were way behind where the comps were for vacation time off, and we corrected that. So I think the agreement's a good agreement. It's a median contract. And I think it sets the organization up very good for the next 3 years. And there's some things in there. We did some adjustments to the driver's position, if you recall, last year or the last contract. We put driver's positions in for the first time. We've actually cleaned some of the language up. The first time you do it, you don't always get it right. And there's more work to be done on that as the driver's position, the organization matures. There's some things we need to go and readdress at the next contract. We've had those conversations with labor group. They won't be unexpected. And I'll conclude by saying I want to thank the board for the time you spent with us prior to negotiations and the dialogue we had gearing up. It put staff in a position to do the work we needed to do with the labor group, and I think we landed in a place. I really wanted this to be before the last meeting of 2025. So I'll take the second best, which is bringing it to you tonight, and happy to say that we're not going to mediation, which means we're not going to arbitration, which means we're not going to be without an approved collective bargaining unit agreement for 1, 2, or 3 years as a result of it. So I'm proud of that, and I'm thankful for the labor group and the work they did. And I will tell you, it wasn't me that did it. You're looking at staff who did most of the work, and I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about Allie and Dan Swedlow, legal counsel, who was there every step of the way, and is a large reason why we have, I think, a fair contract with Local 1828.
Other discussion on the motion? Commissioner Rowland.
One of the issues in the contract that I've been vocal about since the first time that it was mentioned before we entered into union negotiations by the chief was the prospect of offering seniority to be kept to lateral hires. This is a serious issue, in my opinion, and something that we need to take very seriously when we approve this, if we approve this. I also have deep concerns with the way this meeting was called. Having a special meeting, being called to approve a union contract when the public only has 3 days to realize it's going to happen, to look into what their money is going to be spent for. We received, I was trying to figure out the email that was mentioned before was received at 8 o'clock tonight. Apparently somebody was watching, or our liaison was watching the meeting online or something similar, or maybe just read the agenda for tonight and realized this is the only chance they had. And they thought it was serious enough to send us an email. Regardless of the content of it or whether we should take action on any of the items, we haven't had the time to really read and digest it. The public hasn't had a chance to read and digest this and offer any sort of public comment on it at a normally scheduled meeting. It is 10:30 at night. We waited to the very end of this meeting to put this on the item. In the past, for special meetings, we've done the special meeting before we went into a work session so that we could get the business that was important done during normal hours. We didn't do that tonight. We waited to the end. This is an 11th hour kind of and even the speed at which the union was put in a position to approve this, put them at a time where they didn't have really the opportunity to discuss and digest it as they have in the past. So for that reason, I'm moving that we postpone this to our next meeting. And we allow the public time to issue their opinions if they have any, the time to respond, the time to comment. And then we can pass it next week. There's no reason that this had to be moved to a special meeting tonight. There's no reason that this has to be done tonight. And I think we owe it to the members of the public for transparency to at least give them the chance to see what we're about to agree to. So for that reason, I do move that we postpone this to next week.
It's been moved to postpone this to next week. Is there a second? Is there a second to the motion? Not seeing a second, the motion dies for lack of a second.
All
And
right.
we're back
well,
to
then-
discussion.
Then I will continue in discussion.
Commissioner Rowland, please continue.
The fire service has very few tools at its disposal to help retain good, experienced employees. Larger fire departments are able to offer larger salaries, better benefits to firefighters. But one of the things that traditionally across the state has not been part of labor negotiations and union contracts was the ability to bring seniority along with you. This helped smaller agencies and just agencies in general retain good, experienced people that knew their neighbors, knew the neighborhoods, knew the buildings, knew the organization, helped to keep that valuable investment that their local populations had made in the careers of their local firefighters in the community to benefit it. It is an inconvenience and in some trades it's not done, but in the fire service, we've seen what's happened to the police service. And I'm worried about the long-term implications to this. Smaller agencies will lose their experienced staff to larger agencies much easier now that one of the last incentives they had, which was their seniority benefits, are going to be gone. We don't need this in the contract. We don't need this for our organization to recruit and retain good talent. I think it's being done because some of our leadership have experienced it. It hurt to them. And I think that it's personal to them. I think that they wish that they could have transferred into South County Fire and kept their longevity and all the perks that came along with it. It probably felt unfair to them. And I can see that from their viewpoint. But I have to look at this from a broader lens. And that is, we lead. We lead this state as one of the largest and most well-trained, well-staffed, well-cared-for fire departments. What we do will have implications across the state. So when we're making these decisions, we have to look at not just, is this good for us? Is it going to hurt other fire agencies, especially smaller ones? And it will. They will have no ability to compete with us. We become the Yankees. We can afford the best talent, the best players. I'm not saying that that's worked out well for the Yankees when it comes to their World Series. But when it comes to the smaller teams being able to get a chance to do well, I'm getting too far into baseball metaphors and I'm not the biggest baseball fan. The reality is we don't have to agree to this one provision. We can ask it to be removed. I think we should. At least long enough for us to be able to speak and to hear from other agencies that we're about to affect by making this decision. That I think is both our responsibility as responsible stewards of the public, and it's a moral thing to do because it is a domino that is going to tip other organizations to have to adopt the exact same policy. It is going to start causing attrition across the state in agencies poaching the most experienced members of other organizations, whether they be paramedics, whether they be captains, deputy chiefs, assistant chiefs. I can't in good conscience vote for this current contract for that one clause. And I'm asking the board to remove that clause or at least go back to labor and ask, can we wait 2 years to implement this? I think we can, I think we should, and I think we should do our due diligence before we fire this shot at every other agency in this state. I am really encouraging our other commissioners, support this. Or at the very least, give yourself a week to think and to talk to other commissioners, talk to other agencies, do your due diligence. You understand. I've done that. I've talked to other commissioners. I've talked to other firefighters across the state, and they're concerned.
Other discussion on the motion, which is the motion to pass the CBA. Yeah. Commissioner Fernhoff.
Yeah, just in reference, what Commissioner Rowland is talking about is within the CBA 20.3, the RFA and union will recognize all IAFF members of service for all purposes for which seniority is used except layoffs. Is that correct, sir?
Correct.
Okay. And we also know that the term of this agreement ends in December 31st of 2028. So just for consideration, if we did pass the agreement as is, it gives us 24 months to experiment with that particular clause and potentially negotiate it out at a later date, just as a point of consideration.
So Commissioner Wankelman.
What would be the process in the whole, if we decided, we wanted to take this out, what would be the process in terms of, would it go to arbitration? How would that whole process then proceed?
Maybe Chief Eastman can chime in on this TA.
So
contract.
So before you is a tentatively agreed upon negotiated agreement that labor's already ratified. If the board, I don't think we're in a position to say, take that piece out. What's before you is either vote yes for what we negotiated together in the TA agreement or vote no. If the board, and again, I've not been in this position, so I'm talking, I don't think we're in a spot where the bargaining unit's already TA'd the agreement where we go, I would not recommend we say, well, we agree to it, but this language, because I think it's an unfair labor practice, right? Because we've come to agree to the terms of this, the negotiating groups have. What's before the board is the current agreement. You can either vote up or vote down. If the board votes down and the reason was that language, then we would go back to labor and renegotiate the terms with labor. And at that point say, here's why they voted no. If this language goes away, if you're right, then we can bring it back and re-ratify. So I don't think we're in a position where we can say, we vote for it tonight without that. That'd be an unfair labor. Does that help?
Yes, that does. And that would then increase costs in lawyers and arbitration, or not arbitration, but discussion, correct?
I think there's obviously you'd continue negotiations. We'd end up with legal at the table. I think I will say that labor passed us at 80%. And so we have other ramifications if the board chooses to vote no on this. There's other collateral that I think we need to take into account if the board chooses. Just remember 70%, 80% of the membership voted yes on what's before you today.
Thank you for that.
Other discussion on the motion? Commissioner Rowland.
This contract does only run for 2 years. That's right. And yes, we can pull it out of our contract in 2 years if we can negotiate it out. But we can't pull it out of other contracts that then start adding it in across the state. They're going to have to compete with us now with this. For the next 2 years, at least, they have to compete with us. And once we do it, we may pull it back out the genie is out of the bottle. So I do respect the fact that this is a 2-year contract, but my concerns and the concerns that are shared by other commissioners and other firefighters across the state is that this domino can't be we can set ours back up, but the rest won't. And then we'll be back in a situation where we're going to have to keep it in there because other agencies have to keep it in there. Again, I'm asking our commissioners, if anything else, delay this for a week. We can still come back here and pass it. Give it some thought. Talk to your fellow commissioners. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with waiting a week. We haven't even gotten a chance to talk to our lawyers about this. We're doing the best we can tonight because we didn't have our labor negotiator on to answer any questions, which would have been helpful to know about what our options were, what's an unfair labor practice, what isn't. I'm asking us to do our due diligence. You can still vote yes on this next week. I'd like to renew my motion to postpone.
You've already made the motion once.
Will no other commissioner take a week to think about this?
Your motion previously died for lack of a second.
I asked for another commissioner to make the motion on my behalf. They can if they want.
Oh, I understand.
All right, thank you.
I'm not hearing anything. So we're back to discussion on the motion. And I wanted to chime in and thank Chief Eastman and his staff for all of the work that it took to negotiate the contract. I also want to thank our attorneys for their work also, which was extensive. I want to thank the union negotiators for their work. They put in a lot of effort on behalf of our employees, our unionized employees in Local 1828, and the work it took to put that together. It's a comprehensive contract. It's actually a 3-year contract. I want to clarify that. It covers the years 2026, 2027, and 2028. And part of a collective bargaining agreement in the state of Washington is that it's a negotiation. And so it is something that you don't get everything that you want. And there are certain things that I would like to have in a contract, but I don't get to have everything. And that's why there's a negotiating table where you negotiate and you see if you can have a meeting of the minds between the parties, labor and management. And in the past, we haven't, and we've gone to arbitration. I've been through that process. It's a long process. And so where there's an opportunity for labor and management to have that meeting of the minds, which has occurred here with this TA agreement, I think that's the best of all worlds. And I feel like I maybe didn't get everything I wanted in this contract, but I feel like I got enough that this moves the organization forward for the next 3 years. And then, as we always do, there'll be another opportunity to negotiate a contract in 3 years. And so I've been through these cycles many times, and I have seen the issues morph and grow and change, and there'll be an opportunity in 3 years. It's kind of like an election cycle. There's an opportunity to come back in 4 years or 6 years or 2 years, whatever the cycle, and there'll be another election. And so you can rely on that. There'll be another negotiation, as Commissioner Fernhoff mentioned, in 3 years. And so I think that we don't get everything we want. We get enough that we're willing to agree. I think that's where we are. The union has agreed. I appreciate the union bodies, essentially vote of support for this, because they went first and had to vote not knowing how we would vote. They voted yes. And I think that's a good sign of faith on behalf of labor in management. On behalf of management, I want to meet that good sign of faith and support our management team who's TA'd this and vote yes. So I think it's good for the organization. It moves us forward, and I would encourage a yes vote on the motion to approve the CBA. Is there other discussion on the motion? Commissioner Fernhoff?
Yeah, just, we did have a comment on this document. We have heard, obviously, opinion from Commissioner Rowland. This is not a perfect instrument. Okay, so I think we can agree to say that it's not perfect. We didn't get everything that we wanted, these kinds of things, but we are in a state of momentum at the moment. And I would encourage a positive vote on the agreement as it stands now, just based on the likelihood of penalty of time and cost that's at risk.
Other discussion on the motion? Sorry, Commissioner Wittes, go ahead.
Pictures on. Thank you. I just want to say for 37 years in the fire service and half of that being on the union side, as union president, negotiator, I'm pretty proud of our union that has went ahead and put the seniority clause in there. We've been pushing for that for years. That's what a union's about. You got journeyman cards. You can go from place to place. It should be in place, and it should be throughout the organization, the IFF. So I'm encouraging everybody also to vote yes on this. Thank you.
Other discussion on the motion? Commissioner Chan, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to clear, I understand that Commissioner Rowland's concerned about that, but I don't like the comment say due diligence, because that phase was there long time ago. It's the timing of it, and then answering to Joe Walkerman's comments about the process. Once you do not agree, you basically start over again for everything. So I don't think we are lack of due diligence study. I think we all were aware that we did not think that's anything. So I'm voting with confidence with myself due diligence. I'm voting on it, and not because I don't want to wait one more week. Thank you.
Commissioner Winkelmann.
Thank you. First and foremost, I do, from lots of conversations, I know that there has been a significant amount of due diligence on this. The agreement has gone through. I appreciate the team of the leadership team and how they've approached this. But more importantly, I really want to listen to labor. And there was an outstanding vote of over 80% supporting this. And I want their voice to be heard. Community voice is also extremely important to me. And I feel that, through this process, the community has been involved as much as it's wanted to. And there has had that opportunity from my understanding. But in support of what everybody is saying, I also agree to support this vote.
Any other discussion on the motion? If not, we'll go ahead and move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. And Commissioner Rowland has absented himself from the meeting.
Commissioner Kenny, on behalf of staff, again, thanks for the support through the whole process. I'll let the players know that you guys ratified it positively tonight. So thank you very much.
Good. And we'll have the, and Ms. Blankenship, I'm not sure, we'll have the contract for signature for the commissioners by electronic process. Well, so that'll be coming in the next day or two for signature. So yes, if you'll let Local 1828 know the good news, if they don't know already, that's very, very positive. And Chief, thank you to you and your staff for the good work. This is a long process and a big lift, and is a very significant achievement. So thank you again. And with that, we have no further business. Our next meeting is next Tuesday at 7 p.m. for our regular meeting. So without objection, we will be adjourned. Thank you.